Hi there, Jezza here. Welcome to JezzaTime. Let's find out what today's story's all about. It's called Geetha Green. By opening this book, you are entering into the world of the Colour Elves. Now, if this is the first time you have encountered this regime, then may I wish you a very, very warm welcome. If you have visited before, then it's lovely to meet you again. Now, the world that we're talking about is on the same planet that you and I inhabit, but it is a secret, hidden corner that humans cannot see and know extraordinarily little about. However, it is especially important because magical colour elves exist here, and they work incredibly hard to make the earth such a beautiful place. The main job of the elves is to repaint the colours as they start to fade. You know, sometimes in the morning when you go outside and everything is bright and fresh, well, that is because the colour elves have been busy in the night, working extremely hard. People often say that they feel as if they are in a freshly painted picture, and the truth is that they actually are. Now, although the elves are secretive and magical, in many ways they are just like you and me. They have human feelings, emotions, successes and failures. They often make mistakes, and just like us, they are learning all the time. Every young elf is responsible for a particular colour, and they are encouraged by their elders to take great pride in their work. This is a story of one such elf. Her name was Geetha Green. She was a very hard-working elf and was always terribly busy. Just think about all the green there is in the world. It's everywhere, all around us, isn't it? How many things can you think of that are green? Well, to start off with, there's all the grass, and then there's leaves, hedges, plants, vegetables, and they all need to be repainted. Humans use the colour green too. It can be found in many different places. Have a think. Traffic and crossing lights, signalling that green means go. That's both for cars and pedestrians. Oh, green crosses, showing a chemist's or pharmacy. Green sacks for garden waste. And your grandparents may have collected Green Shield stamps. They can tell you all about these. Then there's the Green Cross Code, which is especially important for all of us. When you start to look closely, green is simply everywhere. So Geetha was terribly busy. She was very conscientious and determined, and really did work extremely hard. However, like very many of us, she was also very shy. She found it difficult to join in with the other elves, and didn't find it easy making friends. This was such a shame because deep inside she sometimes felt a little bit lonely, especially when the other elves were laughing and chattering away with each other, and it actually made her a little bit sad. It's not easy when you're naturally shy. Maybe you know how she felt. It also meant that she was nervous about asking questions, and was sometimes afraid to ask for help or seek advice. But one day a problem arose that confused her so much that she was forced to ask for assistance, and it made a big difference to her life, as you will now see. It all began when Geetha was sent to work in an area of outstanding beauty. A small woodland with various trees of all shapes and sizes growing there. Now, it was the first time that she'd been sent to paint the leaves of trees, and she was very much looking forward to it, especially to working in such a delightful spot. I'm sure you know the names of many trees, and you can guess which sort might be growing there. How many trees do you know the names of? Oaks, beeches, horse chestnut, birch, pine, willows, and even some elm trees grew there. There are very few elms left nowadays, sadly. You could find out for yourself what happened to these poor trees. Geetha gazed about her. So many leaves of different shapes and sizes, with different shades of green, and they all needed repainting. A great many of them seemed to have faded. Hour upon hour she spent, paintbrush in hand, dipping it again and again and again into her pot of magical green paint. By the end of the day, she felt simply exhausted. She had never worked so hard in all her life. She slept very soundly that night, I can tell you, little realizing what a shock was awaiting her the following morning. Guess what she found? Well, she woke early because she knew she still had so many leaves to repaint. Arriving at the wood, carrying all her paints, imagine her horror to find so many more of the leaves had started to fade, including many of the ones that she'd only just repainted a day before. What was going on? What had happened? She simply could not understand it. There were so many more leaves than the previous day, and they'd lost their bright green colour. Heaving a huge sigh, Geetha decided there was nothing she could do except to start repainting. Yet again she worked and worked and worked until, tired and weary, she stumbled into bed that night with her arms aching. She hoped that by the following morning everything would have returned to normal. But guess what she discovered? Yes, unfortunately, the next day was even worse, and the day after that, and the day after that. More than once she thought about asking the other elves if they could explain to her why every day there was so much more work to do in the woods than the day before. Why so many more leaves had lost their colour. But she was too shy to ask. There were far too many leaves now for Geetha to paint, and she had never been so unhappy in all her life. She was fighting a losing battle. So she decided at last to pluck up courage and to talk to some of the elves and ask if they could explain what was happening to the leaves. So that evening she took a deep breath and asked the other elves about the problem. Now, I guess that you have already worked out what was going on, but remember, Geetha was an incredibly young elf, and this was the very first time that she'd been painting leaves on her own. How relieved she felt when they told her all about the changing seasons and how the earth was turning from summer to autumn. They explained how it was natural for many leaves to lose their green colour every year and to turn brown, red, yellow and orange. The elves all had a good laugh about it afterwards, I can tell you, and Geetha laughed loudest of all. It was as if a huge weight had been lifted from her, and she went to bed that evening happier than she could ever remember being before. What a wonderful change. Even better news followed the next day when Geetha found that some of the other elves, including Oliver Orange, Yasmin Yellow, Roy Red and Barney Brown, would be joining her in the woods. They would be repainting the leaves their beautiful autumnal colours, while Geetha's task would be to repaint the evergreen leaves, They're the ones that stay green all year round. Geetha enjoyed working alongside the other elves and became firm friends with many of them, especially Oliver Orange. She was especially proud a few weeks later when she was permitted to join in with her friends to repaint her section of a magnificent rainbow. But that's a story for another time. I'm pleased to say that Geetha has now become a different person. She's so much happier and enjoys the friendship of the other elves. She's still often shy, and probably always will be, but doesn't bottle things up inside her so much now. She asks questions, something in the past which she had failed to do. When the other elves discovered how unhappy Geetha had been, they felt so sorry for her. They've encouraged her now to talk to them more often and share any worries or fears. To tell you the truth, they felt as if they could have done more themselves to include Geetha and be a better friend to her. So they learnt an important message too. A little bit like her yourself. And there's nothing wrong with that, because we're all different and we're all special too. But sometimes it does help to talk to other people, to ask questions and to share your worries and fears. It's important to show kindness to one another in this wonderful world, whether it be by helping somebody that's shy and timid like Geetha, or in some other way. There are times when we all need some help. There are times when we all need a friend. Thank you so much for joining me today for the story. I hope you've enjoyed it. Remember to look after yourself and to look after your friends. Until we meet again, it's goodbye from me, Jezza. See you again soon.